All right, guys. So, talking a little bit about Married at First Sight and the couples of this season. Just want to do a quick overview when it comes to this recent episode about intimacy and trying to get the couples to get there, which has been an issue in the past seasons. And to me, it seemed like it was going to be a love drought. There was going to be no consummation of marriage. There was going to be no love making between the married couples. For Alan and Madison, they're trying, they're just not completely coupling. Um, and we found out that after the birthday party she threw for him, they went for drinks and she just seemed disconnected. They weren't coupling properly, I'll say. She went to the bathroom, he looked up, she was gone. He thought she just left. So, and then when she came out, he was gone. But they didn't follow up and say, "Hey, where are you?" So that was one of their issues, and he kind of paid her back by not showing up to that flag football game. But Dr. Pia gave them a love assignment, a love game to play, love Twister, I guess, and you answer these questions while you play Twister. And they kind of warmed up a little. They got a little bit flirty with each other, but as far as we saw, that's as far as that went. But it shows that they're giving it effort. Juan and Carla expressed that, they're kind of at a crossroads. She wants affection and romance, and he's just not there yet. He feels an attraction to her, but doesn't feel the chemistry or connection as of yet. But he does express that they get along well together. They work well together as a team in the house, living together. So um, they seem to be good partners, which I think that makes Carla feel a little bit better and more hopeful. I saw her face kind of light up when he said that. But again, they're having intimacy and romantic issues where he's just not ready to show that affection as of yet. But he's got the door open as if it's possible, and he does have an attraction towards her. David and Michelle, they kind of hang out with the friends at this point. Um, she takes David to her eyebrow girl, and they've known each other for years, and they give each other a nice little hug. But the lady gives like David like a nice kind of bear hug. She touches his eyebrows and compliments him and says, "Oh, your eyebrows are perfect." I see more love between those two than than I do between David and Michelle. I'm like, but her friend has one of those bubbly personalities, I think very similar to David. So I guess that's how they were able to vibe so quickly. But those two are warm people. But I can see how Michelle doesn't fit. She's kind of a little cold and a little distant and a little unsure. I think unsure of herself and who she is. I think that's something she needs to work on, and it's kind of proven within the show. Um, so they have a little talk, and she kind of gives him advice because she's been married for some time, um, and trying to just get Michelle to open up is really the big thing. So then they go meet up with David's friends at the bowling alley, and she talks about she's a little light and she doesn't really get deep into the issues. She's like, the living situation we're still trying to figure out. And but as far as the day to day, he's polite, he's nice, and all of that. But as far as the little things, he's using language around my mom, and he uses language a lot. So that's one of our issues. And the friends are like, well, you guys can get around that. He'll work on that. Are you asking too much? Are your expectations too high? And I'll say, on some level, yes. On some level, no. Sometimes men do make us feel like, oh, we're asking too much. And for me, the language thing, I understood like, okay, he can talk a little better around the parents. Now, this is a new person in your life. You didn't get a chance to tell them how you felt. You didn't know what they were going to do. So you couldn't really have that conversation. So that's understandable. But once that conversation is had, we want to see someone actively working on making some changes when it comes to certain areas. Um, and the fact that she she looks at him as, since he doesn't have financial provisions, that he can't provide anything else for her as a person, as they talk to Dr. Pia. And Dr. Pia she shows her old tape. I think she shows both of them the tape of type of person that they want. And, David fits the bill: a little bit edgy, fun loving, talkative, probably all the things that she's not, all the things that maybe she wants to be or wants to work on in herself. So the receipts are shown to her again to show, the producers are trying to let us know, hey, we didn't mess this up. These guys, are not being who they said they were, or who they appeared to be when they came in for these interviews and talked about what they wanted. Namely, Michelle. David didn't have that problem. So again, Dr. Pia reminds her what provision someone provided for you is providing love, companionship, structure, protection when it comes to a man, not just the finances. And she's afraid to go back to small town life and not to have much. And I'm assuming that she did kind of say that's where she came from. So she probably came from somewhere where she didn't have much. So she's always trying to protect the bag at all costs. And that's what her focus is. And she kind of has to refocus on what life is really about. And quality of life, it's not all about the bag. So that's something they have to work on. They can't even really get to the physical intimacy part until they get past this part. MM and Akechi, the whole aggressive issue where he says she's aggressive comes up over and over. And this time she said he was the one aggressive at the restaurant. They kind of got into it. Later we find, because I watched the after party a bit, and he said no, he didn't really get aggressive, and he didn't get loud. But I can disagree, because I've heard him get a little bit loud when it came to her family. When they were all talking together, he felt confronted, so he can get loud. It may not be scary loud, but it's loud enough where everybody can see, and it can be embarrassing. So I think he did get loud. He said he didn't. But he's the one that appears to be aggressive at this point, not happy about the situation. So she's with her friends talking about things, and they get a crab boil, which I've never been to one. So the crab comes out in a bag, and they put on rubber gloves at a restaurant. It just seems kind of weird to me, but fun. I can't even eat seafood, but I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was interesting. So Dr. Pia meets with them, and she's the first one to come by herself. And I was like, oh, did even Akechi, he's not even going to show up for this? What's going on? So he does show up in his little orange hat, which is going to reappear again. And I don't know what's with the hat, but we're probably going to talk about the hat, because I kept seeing previews with him still wearing the hat, which is no problem with him wearing the hat, but it's becoming like a cartoonish vibe to me. Okay, forget about the hat. Let's talk about what Dr. Pia said. When it came to her aggressiveness, that was the issue. And I didn't realize, as he explained, he said he didn't want to embarrass her. But she's like, is there anything that you don't want him to talk about? If it's off the table? And she's like, no. So he says she is sexually aggressive toward him. He feels like a piece of meat. And I was kind of shocked by that. And most men like to feel like a piece of meat with their wives, with women that they're compatible with women that they want. For some reason, their connection fell off when it came to the physical part of this. And he kind of let us know a little bit about why on the after party. But for her, she said she was getting mixed signals. And at first he was saying she was... I can't remember the exact terminology, but she was doing things beyond his consent, trying to be physical with him beyond his consent. And that's not the exact words, but Dr. P is like, well, that's a serious accusation there. But he kind of reframed it and said basically she's trying to be all up on him and trying to make moves on him all the time. And he's just not feeling that. It's not really about all the things she's asking, but he's like, well, she's asking a lot of questions. Let's do things and let things flow and not just, you know, talk about the future, but let's be the future. Let's be our each other's now. Okay, I get that. But I really didn't know that the aggressiveness came from on the sexual side. So I was again shocked. And she said mixed signals were had because during, the honeymoon, she had her hand on his leg and he moved her hand into his lap. So she thought that they were warming up to each other physically. So I guess she was moving things forward in that area. And he was like, hey, I wasn't trying to move things that fast, that forward. And I basically don't want you to be the aggressor in this relationship. Also trying to compare what his exes looked like to her. So there seems like a bit of insecurity there. I totally get it. I kind of would be curious, but it wouldn't be something that I would push. So I can see how she's getting mixed signals, but she's being just a bit too aggressive on his side. And at first I was like, come on, most men would be okay with this, but it's not okay. And if it was on the shoe was on the other foot, then a woman would have the right to say it's not okay either. So I understand where he's coming from at this point. Now I can kind of get it. Men, all different types of men are different. Some men like that, some men don't. I do feel like it's based on connection as well, if you have a strong connection with that person. But some men like to be the aggressor. They don't like to be on the receiving end of the aggression. They want to pursue the woman. So that's the thing, that's the wild card about this whole experiment, is that in the Bible, even when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, not the experts. So men are the ones that seek, they find, they aggress. And when you're just put together in a situation with someone that you have not been pursuing, it can feel odd, it can feel different. And you have to figure out how to put on this pursuit for someone that you already have, that's already your spouse. And you have to build that connection and that motivation to want them and to be with them. So I can kind of understand that this whole process again is against nature, and he's got to kind of navigate how is he doing this, and she has to navigate too. A lot of people, and she seemed very excited to be a wife, and she wanted to get in that bedroom, and he didn't want to do it the same way she did. He's not there, and he has to kind of find his way there. And I feel like he's the kind of person that needs to be the aggressor in the relationship. He probably feels more comfortable in that position. And once they kind of gain their romantic footing, then I think it would be okay for her to initiate at times, but maybe not be aggressive at it. And Camille and Thomas, so after the whole football thing, they were sore. They were stretching each other's joints out. In fact, I found out he pushed her out of the way so that he could win, and she wasn't even mad about that. I would be a little bit mad, but she wasn't mad about that. She thought it was fun. It was cool that he was so competitive. I guess she liked that nature about him. He surprised her when she came home with flowers, rose petals, candles, I think wine, a massage table. He's like, I never did this before, so I'm going to do my best. So he's massaging her, kissing her, massaging her. So he kind of opened the door for the romance to get into overdrive. So she's like, well, I think let's try to do this thing. Let's try to do what married couples do. So he kind of foreplayed her in a way, and I think he romanced her to the bedroom. And I think maybe that's a tip that the other guys might be able to take. And I was surprised that they went there on this episode, but I felt it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming this soon. And it was really the efforts of Thomas that made this happen. So I applaud them for getting this season out of the love drought, the making love drought that it has. In last season, I believe it was a drought as well. I don't think anyone did anything in that last season. It was kind of a tricky season. So for me, I'm happy to see this step moving forward. But Dr. Pia says, is love on the table though at this point, even though you guys have consummated, your connection is strong, and they're still trying to find that word love. It's kind of working backwards. So they said that they're kind of on the right track, but it's been difficult for him to use that word. And he also felt like he was happy to be at this point with her. Didn't feel like he deserved it because he didn't feel like he was the best guy in past relationships, but he's happy to have a second chance with her, another chance to get it right and to be in a loving relationship with someone. So some tears came out. I thought that was sweet. He felt like he didn't deserve love, but now he's getting the love that he's always wanted, even though, they aren't far gone in the process. They've made some strides in their relationship and they've consummated. So also talk about them not having limits in the bedroom, and Camille's basically like she has no limits, and Thomas was really happy about that. So that was a win for this episode and for the whole intimacy project going on for this season. We go back to the whole swag-o-meter, and people have been making fun of the fact that she's using the word swag, and maybe she's going back a little old school. She's 30. She's not that old. She's not that young. But she's probably one of the younger people in this season. I think the young people say Riz, because I'm not young either anymore, guys. So maybe she should say Riz, which I think stands for charisma. But they go shopping for earrings. He puts on this big chain, and I can see a little change in him, a little vibe. Like he's liking that. He's liking the attention. He's liking how it feels to try something new, and we can see it on him. And it's looking like it's a lot of fun. She's also being more attracted to him in this look, especially with the chain. She could just see the vibe of him. His confidence level come up a bit. So that was fun to watch as well. It's fun to see their story. I'm happy for them. Hopefully some of the other couples can kind of get over this hump. We only have so long for this project, guys. I'm not sure how many weeks, but we wish the best for these couples. And for those that are making strides and trying, for those that are stuck, maybe people can learn lessons from their issues and what's going on with them in your relationships, in your marriages even. So I think it's a good show all around for anyone, single or not single. Some things you can learn, some things you can connect with. It's all fun. So we're going to talk more again about this show and other shows as we talk about faith, love, and trends right here on CBiz Media. I want to say all the best and God bless to you all.